and balanced vibration to everyone, and thank you for tuning in to yet another amazing episode of the 2012 show. Of course, today is Monday the 20th. It's Sunday, and of course we're somewhere smack dab almost in the middle of 2012, and things are picking up fast. And definitely today is a big graduation for us, and I've been feeling like really for the last 2 or 3 weeks it's been a major graduation energy going on just throughout the dimension. And of course, many of us that are tapped in can really feel those energies before we start to see them manifest in the environment. And so today I started to notice even through Facebook that it was some type of major graduation time for everyone, and just for the local schools, the universities, etc. But I also saw that in the resistance, like I said, about 3 weeks ago all the way up until now, as many individuals getting the entire scope of what's been presented and making that complete transformation and becoming whole and working with pure energy, truly understanding all of the knowledge, what, when, where, why, and now putting that as their foundation and thrusting beyond with that connection. So before we get started here, because we've got quite a show today, I wanted to check out the chat room, and I wanted to see if everything was coming through loud and clear. And I'm just going to wait for that confirmation, because of course we've put in some new equipment and we've changed up a few things, so we just want to make sure that we're broadcasting clearly. And with Blog Talk Radio, the only way to do that is when the show goes live. So I'm just again waiting for someone to notify me in the chat box that they can hear. Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and get this going. Of course, today's show, you were the guest, as the title goes, and it's how we became awake. We're going to start having individuals come on and share their awakening experience, so that it's not just my point of view that's seen, but it's shown that my point of view is very similar to the point of view that those that are experiencing the mass awakening that is happening right now on the planet, that they're also connected to that. And it's also because we all have our unique essence to show and to give. It's very important that at times you hear the slight variations of what other people are experiencing that have come from different walks of life in different parts of the world, to see that still there is overall progress for all. And even when you look into reality now, you may see some of the individuals, especially those that you call stars or actors, and you say, well, they're in a really fortunate position because they have all the money and they have all of this. But the reality is that the real goals are much, much, much more in depth. That it's something that a person can't even see externally at times. It's in depth how your growth must take place. So I'm not going to get long into here in the beginning of the conversation. We're going to go ahead and bring on Wes and Crystal out in Canada, and that's of course our Canadian resistance, as we call it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up those lines and bring them live, because they're going to, of course, be with us throughout the show. And Crystal, are you hearing us clearly?
Oh, yeah, we're hearing you very loud and clear, Sevan. Good day to everyone, all Resistance family, and anyone listening in. It's a great day. We're doing really well over here, just keeping busy and, staying charged and the like. So very exciting times, of course, and lots have been happening on our end. We're just staying really busy in the reality and out of the reality. So I'm just excited to have a really good show today. I'll just pass you over to Wes quickly so he can say a little hello.
Awesome.
Wholeness and balance. How's everyone doing today?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing excellent.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just want to say it's going to be a great show today, and hello to everybody out there. And we're just really, it's just beautiful to be here right now. At this time, things are really coming together. We find, and like Crystal said, we're really busy in the reality, in and out of the reality. Lots on our plate right now, and it's just what can I say? It's wonderful.
Excellent. Of course, today, of course, you'll be talking to us a lot, Wes, and Luis is also here in the studio. I'm going to give him an opportunity to say what's up to everyone here in a moment. But of course, today we have this how we became awake, and like I said, I just think it's very, very important for us to talk about in real time, what exactly is going on in our reality, how we're experiencing this awakening, how it's appearing to us, and what the messages are we getting from the reality, what have we begun to really see redundantly, and what have we begun to start to apply that has actually become like a major catalyst in us, not only staying at the level of energy that we have, but also growing with more energy rather than actually losing energy. So there's, of course, 10 questions that were attached to this show, so that's also how we're going to go through these questions, and we're just going to present those questions to everyone that's on the panel. I believe we'll be taking in some more people later on onto the panel. Today's show is scheduled for an hour and 30 minutes, but we did have Dave coming on possibly later on to give us some information. So I'm just going to go ahead and start here really briefly by putting on Luis, and then we're just going to have Luis kind of get right into, he's going to be asking the first question. It's just introducing yourself and letting us know, where you are on your journey right now. Luis Wholeness.
Good day, everyone. For everybody, my name is Luis, also known as Cole in the Resistance. Well, I'm having an awesome time here in Costa Rica. Just want to let you guys know, Costa Rica is very beautiful. We got the rainforest, we got the beach. It's very pleasant. I've seen a lot of rare animals, and just having a very good time. Working here consistently, being side by side with Sevan and everyone else. So let's just go right into it. Okay, so my journey kind of began since I was a little kid. I was a very lucid dreamer. I used to like to sleepwalk. What my mom would say. My mom said she would catch me sleepwalking constantly. But later on in the past, I realized what she was catching was a glimpse maybe of my astral body, and I can explain this later on in the story. So, with that said, my family was very Catholic. Like everyone else, went to church, etc. So I had a lot of teaching from the Bible, from a Catholic standpoint and Christianity standpoint. Later in my years, when I got here to this country, I got introduced to Santeria. So I practiced or I experienced spiritual experience by going to different healers that work with the medicine, and they showed me a lot of different skills. Along the way, my dreams were very intense, where I have psychic visions, where I would meet people in my dreams before I meet them physically. So throughout this whole process, I lived my life. I was very into art. My whole life I've just been like a dreamer. So I would say that a lot of this curiosity also took me to pursue spirituality to its full extent. So as I got older, things started becoming strange. Like I started to meet specific people that were actually guiding me through life. So I met a lot of healers, psychics, what people would call witches, or people that were into black magic. And through all this process, it led me to finding myself through different spiritual experiences. And as I started getting older, I started getting wiser and really going on my own to actually practice this. Then I stopped actually going to any kind of practice or seeking external help. When I did this, my life kind of like got flipped upside down, because spirituality really presented itself like it was just me and the other side. So I had experiences where I came out of the body, and when I came out of the body, that's what led me to really be aggressive, if you would say, understanding what was going on in this world, or what I was thought to be real. Because when I realized that I could see my physical body and being outside of my physical body, that in itself changed my life completely. And just seeing that, like, you are torn from everything that you were taught to know, because nothing makes sense at that point, because you can see anything physical just disappear in thin air, and you're there conscious, and then you can just see your physical body, not let alone yours, but the person right next to you. And just that was magical. It was like scary, fun, excited, magnificent, strange. You couldn't believe it. You thought you killed yourself, and then you come back to the body, and the way coming back into the body is like the whole dimension just starts to vibrate, and then it's like you see that side, and you see this side, what we call physical world, and then it just starts melting in until you feel like you land in your body.
So, Luis, why don't you tell us, so if I'm understanding your path correctly, because, of course, we've had thousands of conversations, but, of course, there's a lot of people listening today, and just so they get more clarity, your walk of life has been one of the individuals who has seen the other side of what I just now call the magic when it was mixed with Christianity and also mixed with the black magic from Haiti and into different types of beliefs, power systems, even combined with the Catholic structure, which is what was prevalent with many of the indigenous people moving into the U.S. and coming from Colombia and coming from Panama and coming from different Latin American countries. Let me ask you this then. I mean, since this is a rare opportunity for people to hear what happens to individuals that are along that path and how they can complete many of those paths and move on to something higher, how has your experience been, especially since we want to hear how your journey is now? How has your experience been since getting the major dynamic of understanding what the spiritual world really is entailed with from the resistance? Like, how has that actually impacted things versus the other way is what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, well, the difference is that I got like real clarity to knowing how to apply things to myself just by actually having like a broad point of view of all the works, because a lot of religions or practices don't even like talk about crystals. You know, like they don't talk about frequency. They don't talk about how to alkaline your body, how to bring the energy up. They don't talk about this stuff. So, and to me, this is one of the most important things that I learned coming to the resistance. Strategies and techniques, and from a point of view of someone that had already walked it, that's even better. So once I started practicing it to myself, because I tried almost every technique that I found there and that I found elsewhere, because that's how I approached it. That's the only way I was going to truly know for myself until I practiced it on myself. So as I began to do this, that made me gravitate more to resistance for the practical use of it, because things actually work.
Awesome. So I think that the major thing here is the pushing of power back into self, the full realization that self is, of course, God, versus the more of the external evocations of external energies that can even be concentrated in our mind. And so, I mean, of course, like I said, we've had thousands of conversations, so just for those that are listening, the difference is what I think is what we're dealing with is many people are very aggressive at how they approach their spirituality. They're looking for the answer rather than playing the game, for better lack of words, or playing church. And so they see things that really work really well with spiritual power, spiritual enhancements, and then they see things that don't work at all. And the biggest changes that has been brought about is that many of the systems that have a lot of power, that power is still externalized. It sets itself up to rely on external beings, and then you're dealing with very potent external beings. However, with the resistance, what we're really talking about here, understanding, is what we're really talking about is that inside, these energies are put into balance. I mean, the energies that course through our body, we don't recognize anything as external to us anymore, so that it does not have some type of external power over us. What we do is we understand that our body has multiple functions and then there's multiple energies that are coming throughout this environment, the innerverse and the outerverse. But the difference with this is that how in all of this are you supposed to be progressing? Because we've even seen where if a person gets an immense amount of power, an immense amount of manifestation, they may get what they ask for, but that may not necessarily be what they want. And this is the beginning of the trials and the errors of the neophyte. But when you get to the depth level and you start working with pure energy, assisting people, giving rather than receiving, changing your polarity from what it used to be before, and then understanding where the balances are in between your two polarities. Many people have started off, especially with life, on somewhat of a darker path. Even, I would say, going into the clubs, and go look at the term club or something that can hit you over the head, going into the darker regions of this world and becoming a habitant there and even a frequent of there still would mean overall that you had become a lower energy and became able to feed on lower energy. If you can't see it very clearly, you don't need like a third eye. You can go on World Star Hip Hop and see what negative energy looks like. So we're talking about people who've run the whole gamut, and that's why it's interesting, because what this is going to really come down to is our ability to let go of judging and always looking for the moment where we can say in our mind, that's wrong, he's wrong, they're wrong. Because when a person has an experience, that experience is taking place and is going on for them, and oftentimes many situations they're put in because of the circumstances going on around them, not so much as what they choose to do. So what we're really talking about is recovering from that. And since we're actually on the first question, I'm going to go ahead and give Wes and Crystal, whoever wants to start over there first, an opportunity to go ahead and chime in and say a couple things, because we have quite a bit to cover today in just a little bit of time. But I do want us all to start focusing on also where we are in the journey, because if we all start to really get on here and start talking about kind of how we came into this and where we came from, then we definitely have to extend this off into like a 10-hour conversation more than a 1.5-hour show. So what's going on now is the question that I'm asking you, Wes, or Crystal.
Yeah, well, my name's Wes, and I go by the name Wes Capacitor on the Resistance. I have a beautiful wife, Crystal, and two amazing daughters, Kennedy and Brooke, who I adore. And I guess this has kind of been going on for me personally for about 2 years now. Just kind of seeing the world in a completely different light and experiencing our reality in a way I would have never thought possible. I mean, I'm definitely not at the level of Luis right now. And my journey currently, is and has been to purge and cleanse my mind-body vehicle in order to have a universal current to aid in my activation, that will assist greatly with helping to wake humanity. But I guess just, about a couple of years ago, I just kind of remember sitting out in our porch and just kind of just having a really strong, energetic epiphany about just the way the reality was and the way I saw it. And it just kind of stemmed and changed from there, where just nothing was the same anymore. And it took a little bit of kind of, doing that whole truthing thing and investigating the reality to finally come to that conclusion. But, like I said, I mean, it just kind of fast-tracked us to a level that we're in right now. And up until this point, it's just about kind of going through currently a physical cleanse that we're about to do with the Master Colon Cleanse in about a week's time. And then just kind of taking it from that level to more of a spiritual aspect in terms of, just staying really, really consistent with the meditation and the Mantak Chai and that kind of those kind of practices.
Awesome. I really do. I do like the step-by-step that we've now uncovered about exactly what to do with our bodies, because of course there seems to be, before our actual direction or focus, always something that is pushing us and increasing us and giving us experiences about what's going on in the reality. And then I think the biggest difference between the next phase for a lot of us is to actually have a structure to how we're building next. And that's like the main thing. So the graduation period, once that's achieved, then you actually start to do the step-by-step in building yourself from the mind, body, and soul level, rather than just experiencing things in life and then allowing that experience to carry you to the next experience.
Yeah.
Do you, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go, finish.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I was just going to say a couple other things, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think, I mean, it's for me, I can probably speak for Crystal on this too, for both of us, that, I think that we've run up against, self-limitation now and again, and I think that that's really, I guess, kind of the cobwebbing of our innerverse with, I think, for a lot of us. And I think that one of the big things that we are doing, like I said, we're doing that cleanse, and then afterwards, the biggest thing that we're going to be doing soon is the ayahuasca. And I think I'm really, really excited and I'm a lot of things, to be honest with you, but mostly excited to really go through this experience, because I think that I know for me personally that I do need to purge. There's lots of things that are within me that I think, like I say, for a lot of people probably, instill that limitation, and that, the ayahuasca is really, really key in helping you able to break through to the next level. So I think that, for us, we're really excited about that, because I think it signifies a stage in our spiritual existence that, it's going to kind of be a jump point for us to take everything to the next level and be cohesive.
Awesome. It's definitely good to hear progress that's going on everyone's end. And, of course, there's a couple other people that were, again, supposed to be joining the show, and we are going to be taking those callers on a little bit later on, hopefully. And but basically, what's really I wanted to share here is today is really going to be one of those shows where after this show we're going to be producing a lot of work. And, in fact, the 2012 show is going to be switching to a bi-monthly schedule from now on. We won't be appearing every Sunday, only because we really want to work more in the intensive part of this entire experience. And I would say I spend a lot of time looking for books and looking for knowledge and looking for information, even though I have quite a bit of knowledge and quite a bit of information and quite a bit of access to information. The reality is that where I'm at personally in my journey now is I want to consistently be in action, and I want to be as effective as possible with what I've been allowed to store within my mind, body, and soul, like the entire process of how to take the dirt or the negative part of the being and bring them into the higher levels or the more ethereal or wisdom levels of the entire reality, and even walking this path not only within myself but also externally into the virtual world or into the Resistance website, showing people and blogging to people exactly what I'm uncovering and how I'm perceiving it. But there's, of course, a huge, again, graduation or different level points that we all reach. And I want us all to start to see that within ourselves. Like Wes was talking about, there becomes like a big expectation from yourself and you start to put pressure on yourself and wondering when you're going to make progress, never seeing the progress that you've already made. And likewise, bring this now into the external reality, meaning that allowing the knowledge that you are receiving to somehow start to benefit you on the physical reality, especially from an energy level, a prosperity level, a currency level. And so I believe that one of the major things that we're doing now is that we're moving from this phase of giving information, kind of how the Resistance has been all the way up until this point. It's really like, okay, someone goes out there, they find a bunch of things, they bring it in, and they kind of dump it out on the table, and then everyone in the group takes a look at it and pulls it apart piece by piece based on what we've discovered. Of course, we've pretty much dug into all fields, as Crystal and Wes were mentioning, the ayahuasca, mentioning sometimes the DMT. We've also dug into a lot of the occult books and the occult relation to the reality. So there's been a lot of the Kabbalah, the geometry, the planetary system. There's been a lot of knowledge that we've uncovered, but it's still all saying one thing to me. And this is also where I'd like people to also see their journey even versus my journey as far as like where I'm at, because there is a simple part of where I'm at, where my spiritual energy tends to coagulate and flow. And that's in regards to action. I've noticed that for the last 3 years, pretty much, it's been every single day doing something in relation to spirituality. Until at a certain point, which doesn't take long, it starts to become your way of life, and it starts to really embed every single thing that you're doing in your life, and you start to see it transform. So I really, really want people to understand, once you apply that, when you really know that that transformation has been completely applied, is that you will be physically on the dimension, actively doing something every single moment that equals your spirituality. It won't be what you call a perceived time off. And where this will eventually bring you, for many of those people that are on the line now are already there, but for those that are looking to get there, because I have a lot of people that email me all the time, they're in a great deal of conflict. And this is because the questions do have to be answered. People have to understand that there's different kind of people in the world, of course, but most people, when they have a question about something or it's really something that they feel is important, they want that question answered. So the resistance has basically amassed a database of all the questions in relation to spirituality finally getting answered from a non-biased level. And so where all this is leading us now is our energy levels are a lot more freed up than they were when involved in dogma, when involved in simple anarchy, when involved in many different states of mind that are basically conflictive. So that kind of brings us into the next question, which, I wanted to definitely propose to everyone, which is, what have we learned from ourselves from this awakening experience? Not really from like all the external reality, but kind of what lesson has been gained within ourselves, because that's also where the adepthood really comes in at, when you're no longer just acting on the reality so the reality can see you, but you're actually working on yourself now because you're now figuring out that that's the most important thing. So I really want to start off with Crystal on that. We haven't heard from her. What have you really learned from yourself, Crystal, during this awakening experience? Okay, well, it's possible that Crystal may be switching up the line there, and she'll be coming in a moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass that question to Luis to let us know what has he learned from himself during this awakening experience. That experience that's been something that he's really been able to take with him.
Okay, so what I think I really learned from this is I feel really alive now. I have like a purpose. A formal way of looking at things and being okay with things, not having that doubts. That brings a lot of clarity to your life, not having no more doubt, and being very focused, on pursuing to understand yourself is what I gained the most. And like Sevan says, now it becomes a thing that I don't take a day off, but I'm okay with it. It's exciting. It's fun. It's like hardworking, like you're proud of what you're doing for yourself. So all the benefits are a plus to me. I felt like I was dead before, for better lack of words.
Awesome. I think that's also one of the major things, is that we get this huge pickup of energy through purpose. It's like some people look for the vivid energy like caffeine, where they run around the place and can't sit still, but it's really not just that kind of energy we're talking about. We're talking about constructive energy that actually allows us to feel like there's something progressing, and then actually to see that progress, because it's really interesting when you see it within yourself. It's because it's almost like when you work for something, and I talked about this before, but I think everyone's noticed this, that it only takes you to do one thing wrong for some person to get upset with you and even to write you off, even if you've done 1,000 things right to them. So if you really, really look at that, you can really kind of see that when we look for some type of gratification from external reality and then it disappoints us, we can also write off everything that the external reality has done for us on a positive level or on a growth note. And so, but when you look in yourself, when you X out the whole external reality and all of that, and you look in yourself and you put something into yourself, when you look back, you'll find it still there. And this is the difference. It's like in the external reality, it may decay, it may go away, but the knowledge and the wisdom that you've placed within your mind, the opportunity to grow, the experiences that came with the growth, they're always going to be there. And this is what even the deeper ancient books talk about, is that our growth and our experience here, from the knowledge and the lessons that we're learning, are what's really the most valuable. And so just having the opportunity to give a person or to speak to a person on a level that is going to give them some level of awakening and a lot more grasp of what's taking place in the reality that they're in, really takes them into an entirely different level. And it also allows you to become a catalyst for that, which is what you can obviously tell in the higher planes and the higher regions is what's all going on, just a constant uplifting of all the entities that are there, a continuous pushing up on the ladder. While in the lower regions, there's sometimes a dragging down. And this is why, if we look at our reality and we see just how much negativity is here, we also see that there's positivity here. So why does positivity and negativity exist in one place? And then we've been put here in that place where positive and negative exist. And so, of course, it's because the positive and negative exist within us, and that our big responsibility is to work with what would be the third component from positive and negative, which is the result of all of this. And that's where the graduation comes. When you start to understand how to control the result, not controlling what happens is already going to happen, but controlling what happens, if that makes any sense to anyone. So like, okay, the result in itself, when you become this enlightened individual, can you control yourself as that enlightened individual? This is what now the graduation is about, is all this knowledge that you have, all this wisdom, all this application, all this energy within the body, etc., can you now control it and make it do something? Or is it still the same thing? It's just another version of what you were before, in a sense that you still don't know what's going on, still don't know what to do. So what state was really different? A lot of energy, still don't know what's going on, still don't know what to do. A little bit of energy, still don't know what's going on, still don't know what to do. So the next level to this is you begin to take the energy and say, okay, well, here's what really needs to be done in the reality. Because anything that I put into the reality, I'm putting into myself. So instead of working with it from the outside level all the time, also understanding how to work on it from the inside level so you can get both standpoints. I'm going to check also to see if Crystal was able to get back on the line. Crystal, are you there? Okay, real quick, let me check the switchboard. Okay, it appears that their line should be open. Okay, so they may be experiencing just a little sound situation over on their end. I'm also going to check in the chat box to make sure everyone could hear us clearly. Let's see here. Okay. Well, it looks like everything and all the sound is clear. They may be having a little situation with their mic. We're going to also open up the lines in a little bit because there's some people that have called in. And I know some people are graduating today also, so they want to give their condolences to a lot of the stuff that's been going on. And we're going to also go to the third question. I wanted to really ask the second and the third question together because then it makes sense. Like if you ask a person kind of what you've learned, then they have a certain group of things to say. But if you ask them, well, what have you unlearned? I guess that becomes like a different question altogether. So I guess we're going to go and shift it to Luis again. Luis, what have you unlearned in the experience?
I have unlearned a lot of bad habits, or what would I would say, habits that didn't propel me for growth. It just hindered me, especially with eating habits. Mm-hmm. I unlearned a lot of, acidic eating habits that I used to think that, you bulk up and you eat more and you get bigger and you're healthy. That was my mentality. But it was not, I eat less, I eat cleaner, and I consume so much more energy. Like, I can hold the energy, I'm a lot lighter, I can sustain it, a lot more stamina. So these are the things that I unlearned. My bad habits as a hygiene for the physical body and the astral hygiene. So I definitely...
That astral hygiene is really important. I'm glad that you bring that up. It's a major thing. Like, I think it's almost like the linchpin to the entire thing, the astral hygiene. And for many people that are not familiar with that term, astral hygiene is about before you're going to make your projection or your meditation or you're out of the body or you're lucid, that there is a certain state that you should put your body in and the environment in around you in order not to just constantly and magnetically attract negative energies. And, of course, this can even come from thoughts and desires and different things that are around us. But it's such an important thing because it actually controls the whole of the spiritual experience within itself. And we've also talked about on earlier shows that substances such as DMT and even ayahuasca still are highly dependent on the person's frequency to what they're going to experience. So you can definitely do yourself tons of favors by not touching things, especially such as DMT, with having negative energies, expecting that it's going to take you into a gateway of positive results. It's actually more on a negative level. And it's really because that when we go into these other frequencies, whatever frequency we find ourselves in on this dimension, we're only going to enter that frequency channel on the other dimension. And so this is also where the adept comes in, because, of course, the neophyte or the seeker that's just having access to this will say, okay, well, I'm going to try it because I think it's going to further me on the path. But I think that we're all here to contribute a certain level of knowledge. The knowledge is that if your experience, each of your experiences you're always going to remember. But to put in your mind a very negative experience when you don't have to is the difference between a seeker, a neophyte versus an adept. The adept knows that if you clean everything around you, including yourself, clean your mind from the foul thoughts, behaviors, etc., and then embark on the spiritual journey, that memory of what you will receive there will be entirely different. And so I really want everyone to also look at unlearning some of the more negative things that have been holding us back, especially in regards to the diet, because the diet is the repetition. That's what we more or less instinctually learn every single day. I eat this, I eat that, and many people eat the same things because it's easier to make, or they know how to prepare it, and they get stuck in eating certain things and consuming certain things, and then that energy is what you now have to propel into the reality. And that's why it's interesting. Luis kind of explained it in a way where you can see that when we consume foods, then we basically bring out that energy. So if you're consuming foods that are very high frequency, then you bring out that high frequency. So this is just something that you learn to do along the way, and then you see how important it is. And it becomes just as important as if you pull up to the gas station, you don't put water in your gas tank because you decided that water in the gas tank would be cheaper for you. You put gasoline in there because that's what goes in there. So we have to kind of look at our bodies the same way. I'm just going to go ahead and again roll into this next question here. It says, if you can change one thing about the world, what would it be and why? And this was kind of I guess they call it a trick question. I was just answering that. With me personally, I don't really work with changing the world in the way that changing something in the past. So I want that question to be clear, that this is not a past tense question, like if you could change something a long time ago that happened in the world, what would you change? But like right now, what would you change and what can you change? And I'm going to pass that question into Luis, so I'm going to make it a little bit more, basically I'm going to make it a little bit more expansive, like what will you change and why will you change it?
I will change the lack of education. I would definitely, because I really don't think that it's our education about ourselves. I mean, the whole story of ourselves is very fair. It's like very unfair. So I would definitely push to change that.
Awesome. I'm going to check again and see if Wes was able to come back online. They did let me know that they had to take care of a couple of things with the kids, and now they're forward. So we're going to just ask them, what will you change, and why will you change it? Okay, I'm not sure if I'm getting through to Wes or Crystal over there. I'm probably going to have to call them on another line. And so I'm just going to keep going on with this. I think everyone knows what I'm changing. I have the same situation as Luis in many aspects, as far as I see that the system of knowledge that is here has been the result of a very conflictive, slow path for just our world. And this is really, to me, the control point of all things is that when you bring a child out of the womb, like all of us know how to talk, or else we wouldn't be listening right now. We know math, we know a few other things, and that was all taught to us because we all spent some time in some form of education. We may have not went to the highest levels of the university. We may have left early, who knows, but we at least know how to read and write, so that knowledge came from somewhere. And so when I look at that knowledge and I see how it was not only taught to us, how the meaning was taught to us, all of these different things I see as what really becomes the greatest part of our struggle in this world. Because when you take a child and then you don't train them properly, and then that child goes and lives in a world that has specific universal laws that it obeys, then if the two are not matching, then you have a conflict. So what I'll say is this. We were noticing how just within the Western culture, they thought to kind of change everything. If it was going up, then it went down with them. If it was going right before, then it went left with them. If the soccer ball was round, then it became like a vesica to the Western world. So they basically changed everything and then introduced another system of knowledge. And we're still not saying that the previous system of knowledge that was introduced was of the most basically was the highest level of knowledge either, but what we're talking about is we're talking about people that are inside of the matrix changing the laws, the rules, and the structures of the matrix to not be cohesive with how the universe works. And so then when they teach that information to you, you grow up in a world still behaving kind of against the universe. And so thus when you're against the universe, then you get all sorts of bruising, scrapes, and scratches from dealing with the opposite current of energy. So I kind of heard the mic quiet down here, but so what I really see is something that I will change, and something that I know needs to be changed is how we take information in and what information we take in, especially as youth in this world, that actually begins to create, and this information, when it's not done properly, it creates a large amount of conflict and struggle for us. So I believe that if we start to really work well with the education levels, homeschool curriculums, things of this nature, and then pass that to the children, then we'll be living in a world that has a lot more freed up energy in no time, especially if, when you're talking about a technique, anyone can utilize that technique. I mean, a child that's 5 or 6, 7 years old can begin to utilize breathing techniques. So we're still talking about something that has a relatively very short turnaround time. If you choose to educate the children now, turnaround time could be even less than, it could be no turnaround time. It could be right away. It could be the moment that children begin to get the proper books and the proper literature within their hands to get them to the next level. And this is also, I will tell everyone, it is the reason why the 2012 show is actually going to become bi-monthly, because I really want to work a lot more on the literature. I just became so frustrated today with looking at archive.org and looking at how limited the information still was available about particular topics and particular keywords. And so in order to work on that more, people have to also understand that with the radio show, for what we've been pumping out for the last 2.5 years, it does take a lot to really put that information together and to really stay in those frequencies all week so that you can transmit that kind of information. So I do also encourage people to go through a lot of the older shows and to see the transformation. Also starting just from the beginning and then going to the middle and the end. You don't have to listen to all the videos, but you can kind of see the transformation within the energy even from that. And then this allows us to, of course, explain it to individuals a lot more and also have something to give them. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think I got a message from Crystal that they've gotten their line fixed back up. So I'm going to ask if they're tuned in. Wes and Crystal, can you hear us okay? Either. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, because it seems like we may have a sound issue here, I'm going to double check and make sure that everyone can hear us inside the chat box. Okay, so I'm going to ask anyone that is in the Resistance chat box, if you could type and say that you can actually hear us, and we'll keep going. We just are wondering if our lines are actually connected solidly. says everything is clear. Okay, so Idris says that we're loud and clear. So I guess it's just the sounds and the mics are so clear. It sounds like that we're off air. So here's, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a caller because I'm going to give still Wes and Crystal time to come in. Actually, they did call in again, and I'm now opening up their line. I do apologize for that, Wes and Crystal. I didn't know that you actually had disconnected and reconnected. So now I do see you in the switchboard, so I know you can hear it clear because I could just hear your line open. Is everything okay over there? Okay, maybe they can't hear us again. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a caller from the area code 202. Caller, you're on the 2012 show, and of course this is the graduation period. Wholeness.
Great thanks and greetings as always to the entire family, especially Luis Spirit Matter. Thank you for your input. My question is, I could share, but I might ramble, so I'm focusing on the question of, can you help me with the dynamic of courage and when you do await, how you realize that you are something, but you're not what you thought you were, but you were only that as long as you thought you were that. Just the dynamic of courage. It's like courage was the first tool I reached for. So that's what I present to you.
Okay, I mean, awesome. Nice presentation of the question. The question is courage. Let's deal with it just from the full dynamic of it. And of course, I'm going to let Luis chime in on that until what courage means to him. And I'll just give a brief explanation of how to obtain, not only how to obtain courage again, but also how to deal with, like the brother said, when you find out that you're something different than what you thought you are, and that you only remain what you thought you are as long as you think that you're that. And so if you're somehow not comfortable with what's outside of that, then you can start to live in an illusion for a prolonged period of time. And this is also some of the damage that is created within even racism, and some of the damage that's created with the society that does separate one from another. So it's something that everyone is pretty much dealing with, different levels of courage. I think I saw, I saw an interesting clip, but Will Smith was coming across the red carpet and for the Men in Black party or whatever they do, and a gentleman attempted to kiss him in the mouth, and then he had to smack the guy. So, of course, this is a situation where you're just coming in, you don't even expect something like this to occur, and then someone attempts to kiss you, and then you have to smack them, and then you do it right on camera. I think that's another level of courage. But what I think I'm talking about here is when we really look at what's happening in our reality, we're constantly shown things that we didn't expect to happen. This is what I want to drive home here. There's, as they say, Uranus is the planet that is responsible for unexpected things. This is when all of a sudden you figure out some information that changes the entire dynamic of what you've been dealing with before. And then there becomes different levels of courage that are accessed, because there's the courage not to be a hypocrite, meaning that there's the courage that comes forth with when you find out that maybe you have been doing something that actually equals opposite to what you thought you were doing. Then you're now in this hypocrite mode. And I think that that's why we had this, the school of hypocrites, as they call it in Egypt, which is once they turn it upside down, as they show the Joker card, once the person's reality is turned upside down, they realize things weren't as they thought that they were, then there's this huge hypocritical thing you draw back into. And a lot of people have become buried by it and become very guilty about it. And some people that have been involved in things that have propelled the society in the wrong direction, and they didn't know until a certain point, then they feel also this kind of energy, and they have to then summon the courage to stand up against it again. And what I believe is that it starts to work first when you isolate yourself from everything around you, just from a mental, spiritual level, not so much as a physical level. You don't have to go become a monk somewhere, but when you start to realize that everyone is having this same experience, it's just whether or not they're really addressing it. Meaning that everyone will get to a point where they realize that a lot of things that they're actually doing has been pushing things and themselves in the wrong direction. Well, where the courage comes in for the true definition of it is when you get up there and you start to fix it. It's like when you now know, okay, well that's obviously not the thing to do. Like hatred, no matter how you really want to cut it, no matter how good it feels, it's not at the moment. It's not pure energy. So the reality is that at some point you either have to let go of it. There's really no justification for it. So there's also a person then that needs to summon courage to stop hating. So you see, these courage challenge, just like love challenge. Like when I said someone needs to now their ability, when a person's ability to love is challenged, it may be challenged against what they hate, like your ability to love what you really hate. You see what I mean? So these seem to start to roll into just one basic principle, which is that can you accept yourself and keep rolling with it? And then on top of that, figuring out ultimately that how does all this stuff still connect to you? Because a lot of people say, well, I don't want a part of this and I don't want a part of that. But if we're still in the reality with it, it means that it's connected to us in some way. And this is why I talked about action, because when we're pondering whether we have courage or whether we have strength, we're also not active in the reality doing something. Because when you're active in the reality and doing something, it basically equals at that point. At every moment, you're exerting courage and strength. I think it takes a lot of courage to even talk to people about the truth. I think it takes a lot of courage now to even start to deal with people on an emotional level from the responses that you'll get with them sometimes. So there's a lot of things that we're doing that are courageous, and we're not even really summoning that up because that's something that we've been doing for a prolonged period of time. And this is also where when we go at ourselves and we're kind of upset about our progress, like, oh, you're not progressing fast enough. This means that you're in a frequency that you raised to already. So now another frequency to raise to after that. But while you're in that frequency, yes, it's going to feel like your comfort zone. But if you look outside of yourself and you can see how much you progressed from where you were before, then you see, okay, well, yeah, I'm definitely in another frequency. And now it's just another time for me to go into something higher. And this anxiety, for better lack of a word, is what pushes me to go higher. Like if you tell yourself, I need to become courageous, I need to become this, I need to become that, this is just what's pushing you to do that.
Right now, I feel like within the calculation, what's been coming to me for the last week is trust the calculation. And last week when I spoke to you about the third level down, whereas I remember hearing you say that this thing is very well orchestrated, and it's not just like happenstance that it's happening. So right now, my space is trusting the calculation and my factoring in that calculation, in the grand calculation, whereas all things are factors. All existence is a factor in this grand calculation in the mind of the Most High. And just the courage to trust that the experience is what I should have right now. And it goes to the thing of I don't want this and I don't want that. That's just I feel the brick of courage under my feet right now. Like that's exactly where I am. So.
And I've been, like I said, I've been feeling a lot of definite clearance lately, especially with some of the stuff that's been going on in my physical reality, just as regards to getting to the next phase of what people need. I'm going to also let, I will say, Wes and Crystal, if you come on the line at any point, just do say something. I'm just not going to, keep stopping and then asking, are you there? And then the whole pause. But I do have the mic open. If you can hear me, just to know that if you want to chime in, you can definitely chime in at any point. I'm going to let Luis talk because I think that he's just had an amazing adventure himself, and then courage really became just almost moved out of the way as a thought because he realized that he just had to keep going anyway, which is an entirely, like the zone after courage is where you realize whether I have courage or whether I don't, I still have to keep going. And then ultimately that equals courage. So I'm going to let, Luis say a couple things about that.
No, and I would like to say about the caller that courage that you're feeling now is that you're taking that leap where you know that you gotta immerse yourself all the way in if you haven't already. And I remember there's a lot of these different leaps of this courage that you have to pick up. Even a mother has a lot of courage to raise children or a child on her own. That takes a lot of courage. Because she has to mount this other character to herself, which is masculine, and that's all new to her. But she just goes ahead and does it. So there's many levels of courage where we are not experienced at all or have practiced it, and we just throw ourselves right in. And I remember one thing my dad told me, and it stuck with me always. He's like, don't ever be scared of anything, not even another man, because he just like you, they have 10 fingers just like you, so it's like you're only scared of yourself. And that's what actually kept me going my whole life into any situation.
Now, last week, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Sevan said you did 2 reasons why you're in this sphere, because you wanted to enable the captors from the other side, or because you misused the energy. It came to me just now that have I organized myself to be afraid of myself to a certain point? Like, does that happen? Like, it's in the agreement that you make when you come here, it's like you know what you are. So I'm trying to relax. You know what I mean? It's like everything seems so intense right now.
Yeah, I just think that sometimes those are like blockages that you're clearing away from the domestication or the programming.
Yeah.
It's adjusting, and being able to, like how Sevan says, function with the energy. And this is just things that happen to us along the way when you finally, I would say, calibrate yourself completely. But just hang in there, brother. You're almost there, It'll come to a point where you're a lot more clear, maybe, that needs to take place in your life. It doesn't need to be an alchemical thing.
Oh, hello? Hello? Oh. Hello?
Yeah, was it?
I just missed that last piece, whatever. Of course the phone cut off for a second.
Okay.
But I'll don't stop. Just keep progressing. I'll re-listen to the show.
Okay, no problem, brother. And I think, what Luis is saying in a nutshell is that, it's easy to, like we were talking about earlier, it's kind of easy to see where we of course get very aggressive about our spiritual progress. It becomes also very important. I call this like a person who's painting, and they have a beautiful painting, but they never stand back to look at it. And so at times is that one can go into fanatic painting. Okay, what have I put together already? And that's why it says you have to make a sober. That's what it does in the doctrines, but it says you have to make a sober estimate of yourself every day. To make an estimate of yourself, you have to measure it against something else. And I guess the best thing to do is to measure it against the universe now. Like before, we used to have to measure our consciousness and measure ourselves against all of these different archetypes that they've been putting or hacking and then putting in front of us and then calling them stars. Now, when we use different mentors, different role models, and that actually becomes what we start to measure ourselves up to, then we'll see that we'll exceed society's limitations and have already exceeded society's limitations very fast. However, we still cannot neglect that we're still sitting in a frequency that has been in a state of unawakening. So that means the overall pervading frequency is not awake. We are just now sending this new frequency through and then watch things and how they adjust to that and see if they prefer that. That's the other thing, because it's almost like are you going to force something to walk on its 2 legs when it wants to walk on 4 legs? And what I mean by this is that there is this freedom of choice that has been exercised. It's not something that someone can take. I guess they only can tell you they've taken away your rights. But really, it's the inner verse. The inner verse can never be taken away from you. And then even when they kill you, you just only have more access to it. So you can see how the entire reality is built or game has been to make everyone believe that the external reality really has something that you don't have. And then when one starts to accept that idea, like, okay, there is something there that I need, then it starts what we're now calling physical life, this experience of always trying to grasp something, etc. This seems to be things that we've chosen in our immortal lives, meaning that while we would want to blame someone for doing this to us or trapping us into something, we just ran in a complete circle. We just said again that they could not do that. What it becomes is that something that we're doing because we want this experience. When you shut it off, there's nothing there. It's just like blank silence, for better words. And so instead of us choosing to be in that state, we chose to live out and be active, to see our creations, our internal creations, come out externally, be they babies, be they inventions. So it's literally like this only became a nightmare when we stopped having control of it. And people need to think about this. Would they be on Earth if they had complete control over it? Of course. If they had control over things, they would love to be here. They could make the best out of it. They'd probably be laying out in Bali for a while, taking the different supplements that increase the energy. So Earth wouldn't become such a bad place. So what we're really, really dealing with here is that it's our idea, the idea that has been embedded within us. Once that's changed, once that begins to metamorphosize, then this reality starts to basically convert itself into what we project. And that's why there's so many places in the reality. People have to also realize that you could be talking about, I guess, like I said, Bali or the Gaza Strip. These are two opposites from each other, but they're still on the same planet. And this is done so that whatever frequency a person feels like they need to be, that they can find a place that's habitable for that frequency. And then while they're there, because at that point there's no such thing as the past and there's no such thing as the future. There's only the present. While you're there in that frequency, if you're fully awake, people need to understand what totally awake means is there's no past and there's no future. You're in non-linear. So if you're out somewhere like, and then also what is accompanying with these thoughts is that you don't need a body. You can do it in the bathroom in McDonald's for the person who has the supreme control over their mind. And there's no worms or things or programs, viruses that have embedded the person's mind, body, and soul. So we're looking at a state of going from basically not functioning only because of our lack of knowledge. I just call it that. Not functioning because of our lack of knowledge, or functioning poorly. That's the other thing to put out there. It's not that we're not functioning. We're just functioning poorly. Our vibration is working. The chakra system is working. It's just not working fast. It's not vibrating fast and harmonic. So this is all we're really changing, is moving out of the way. And we know the easiest way to do it is inside. Now, what's happened is that we've even discovered ways to do it outside, but it's going to be so specific to each individual. Because that's what it is. When you're dealing with someone internally, you can get right to what is needed. But when you go externally, you can't use the same external thing on everyone. And this is why some people agree with the message, and then some people don't agree with the message at all, and then are already off the line. This is because you have different kinds of people. So you can also tell, what is the universe looking for? It's looking for universal beings, beings that can go and teach and instruct and radiate throughout the galaxy without there being other energies that are opposed to that. You see what I mean? So it becomes, are you in quarantine? Meaning, are you just locked in this particular world, or do you have access to other worlds? And this knowledge has come from going through states and knowing individuals going through states where for one moment they may be locked out of the dream or not have any dreams. Then to another state of having dreams of extensive expansion and even pulling things from the dream, knowledge, information, and ideas that are applicable in this reality. So what it really kind of becomes for us is that, and this is why we're going to kind of be switching up the platform here, is because we don't have to waste time in doing this. This doesn't have to be something that we're waiting on 2012 or waiting on this. This is only when someone feels that they need this so much that they summon the energy to get it done immediately. And this is what I've also noticed between when there's a desperate situation going on and you need interaction from the spirit side of yourself versus when you're relaxed because there's really nothing caving in around you as far as on the physical reality, or mama's not dying, or something very important like you're right about to smack into another car. There's none of that going on, so there's no need to access this higher level of spiritual power energy. What we're teaching is individuals to always feel like that in the states of, hey, man, this is urgent, man. I need to really get to the next level, like right now. Because if you don't, then it becomes, you can basically lay in the sun like a lizard and just bask in the glow of the sun god of Earth, and then just be here serving still a purpose in the universe, because you'll be cycling energy and cycling food with all the other entities that live here. But that doesn't have to be the last that we hear of you. And this is why I told a good friend of mine that I don't think Earth is the last you'll hear of us. And that's the real. I'm like, your name's Tiffany, you'll be like, this is not, Earth is not the here, Tiffany. And then that's also the courage that you begin to access, because you start to say, you know what, I'm not going to let this thing like swallow me. You may have swallowed me, but I'm not dead inside of you. And this is like, if you check out the visualizations, like the universe has swallowed us, but we still live inside these auric fields. One's like, it's Earth a diamond, as they call it the square. The diamond's impenetrable. They said that in the Terra papers. Ra showed them how to build the diamond, and once they built the diamond was impenetrable. Right. It's the hardest. It has a connection somewhere also on different levels. Right. And so once we went inside the diamond, no matter what swallowed us, we couldn't be destroyed. And then what enveloped us from there is more dimensions, but still the diamond is just under pressure. So, and then at some point, this light is going to explode from within it. And this is just things that you can visualize and you can see how it happens. It's not nothing to do with Luciferians and nothing to do with all of when they bring it into the external world and what it means. So if you can liken the glow of what you look like in the universe, like when the nuclear explosion hits its real charge point, then you can see how when you would bring that into the external reality, it becomes death to everyone. Versus in the internal reality, it actually gives life. So this is the difference. In the external reality, the positive things give death. In the internal reality, they give life. And then that's why the symbol of this dimension is 4. They've been showing people the longest. There's 4 gates, 4 seasons, 4 this, 4 that.
Okay, you just spoke to it, so I didn't know if I was going to bring it up. So the relationship from 4 to 5, if you make a circle and the language of numbers is 1 through 9, and you plot those points around the circle, and the center point being the 9th, the 4 and 5, it's like, I just thought of it, as like oscillating current, like going back and forth. Just in my mind, I thought 2 circles in one circle. A 4 and a 5, 4 and a 5. Then I thought about 10 quarter. And then I thought about when you said Yod Hey Vahe Shin. It was 4 characters and then a 5th character. So I keep seeing this 4, 5, and I just wanted to do this. Can you help me with that?
You're just seeing male, female. Like generally when you get even, odd, you're just really seeing male, female. So when you see 4 or 5, male, female come together and make 9. That was like the real number of completion. And Luis says Ithaca. So what happens here is that we're now living in the 10. Now this is something that's very interesting because I've been tracing this, and I know the conversation today we were on some other stuff, but I guess this is part of the conversation. What happens in this reality, this is what I've been really, really noticing after all the knowledge, all the wisdom, all the books, the knowledge on geometry, knowledge on numbers, etc. But it shows that this Jah, this L, is the number 10. And it shows how every time you add a letter to it, it shows how there's even more energies or beings. And this is Kabbalah, as they say. So what I started noticing is that, well, wait a minute. Is not the 10 then, because we're still talking about a specific language, and this is where people get lost. They don't realize that this is still a specific language coming from a specific group of people. It doesn't mean it's the language of everything. It just means it's the language these individuals are using according to the system that they were on. And when we look at the language, we know they were using computers. We know they had a knowledge of supreme mathematics. We know all this stuff. So taking all that into account, it would mean the 10 is more like an illusion, more so than completion. 9 would be completion. 10 would be an illusion because 10 doesn't really exist. It's a composition of one number and another number. You see what I mean? So this is also where you get dual. When you have a 1 and a 0, you have a dual plane, and that's also the symbol of Phi, is the circle with the straight line in the middle is the Greek symbol for Phi also. So it's basically like this. If you really see where the reality is, can you realize that's where it is? It's almost like that's when we're saying when we neglect that we're really something else. We're really something else, and we think we're one thing. That starts to screw things up. It doesn't allow us to really get on. And this is also what Earth is doing. It's neglecting to realize that it is 10. It is the dual plane that has to be worked from. But when it's like Earth as a whole ego, meaning the consciousness of Earth, all speaking from the level that they are in now through ego, is saying, no, we're everything. To become everything, you have to meet everything. And one of the major things about Earth is that we're having a hard time meeting other beings, meeting other energies, and not having to go through the prolonged period of conflict until eventually we make a baby. Because look what's really happening in Earth. You get these two separate races, and then they go into these huge conflicts. Many people die. Then at a certain point, the children come out, and the children just want to do opposite to what the parents are doing, because the children are just born on the opposite pole. Why William Ford says that the ego has this weird way of giving you opposite to what you got the previous life, just so you won't even remember you were here before. So if you don't like black people one life, you'll be in that next life black. Then you won't even think that you would never believe that you would become black the next life. So this kind of embedded programming is what keeps us from colliding on Earth and keeps Earth going, meaning that whatever super sentience is doing this is connected to all of us. So then we start seeing the universe is really who has the job, for better lack of words. Like when you have to respond to you every time you get into a situation or every time an emergency occurs and you need it immediately. And so how we can function in that capacity, like how can I be there for people when they need me? That's when we can start to extract from all this knowledge just what we need to be doing. The universe is there when I need it. So in order for me to become the universe, I need to start being there when all the beings in the universe need me. Did I show up? And so here's the bigger thing. This year, we need people. Of course, there's a huge level of consciousness that wants to destroy the world this year, right? So in that event, we need people that don't want the world to be destroyed. Because most of the people, and this is why, like I can see if the people who wanted the world destroyed had a really good plight of why they wanted to destroy it, but why they wanted to be destroyed. But these individuals don't even know what's coming next. So how smart has it ever been to destroy or get rid of something and you don't even really have a replacement figured out? And so this is also where we're talking about the difference between an adept or an adult and a child. Because a child will just as soon as leave it behind and go look for something else. But the adult will take care of it, take care of the problems, realize that it did do good things for us. Even if it fed us alone, it did do good things for us. So to judge it based on that we found out that it wasn't everything that we thought it was in our limited ideas, meaning that Earth is surprising people now because everything about Earth is not exactly what they thought it was. Earth has a nighttime to it, for better lack of words, that they have been scared of since they were a child. And that's what made them a child. As a child, if you're scared of the dark, this means that you're scared of poles. And until you can actually conquer your fear of that pole, then you never become the next phase of whatever it was you were before. So in this case, if the person was a child, they need to graduate to become an adult. To do that, you have to get fully familiar with what the other pole, or the hidden, as they call it, the abyss, what it was really about, the darker part of our mind. And I'm starting to find out it has a lot more to do with what we've been refusing to discover because of more of laziness than some evil creature that is laying in the middle of the labyrinth waiting to eat something already inside of a diamond. And that's what other people need to think about. It's the fearful thing. Let's talk about it. The fearful thing, the Jabberwocky, whatever they want to call it. If it was to eat you, nothing would happen to you because you're inside of a diamond. So what's going on here in the 10 is just the constant affirmation that the Jabberwocky may eat you. You never see it. And this is also what you see has been going on for the last 5, 6, 7 years about the Illuminati, about many of the different evil beings and factions and stuff. You never see them. The only thing we see is what's carried out by human beings. They keep blaming that it's going on because there's these darker energies, darker powers. And that's the reality. It will happen step by step. Each person will have to be, for better lack of words, convinced to lay down the sword. So we have about 14 more minutes left in the conversation, brother. I definitely want to thank you for calling.
Thank you very much.
Definitely for calling as well. Oh, definitely. I know everyone's definitely listening, and I again want to say thank you for allowing us to prepare the conversation into more of what can give people their clearance for this particular time of the year. Like I said, the graduation time, because that's what it's time to do. And then we get into action. We start becoming these real forces working throughout the earth to better things. And so when people say, well, where are the good forces? Where are the malevolent beings? They're just like a phone call away, not some weird location with some weird planetary conjunction in alignment. This is also something that needs to be brought up. It's it's more or less a shame that every time we need something very powerful and magnificent, we have to go so far to get it. Why is it not basically almost right next to us? Why are we not it? And this is now also the difference between externalized religion, dogma, versus the resistance. The resistance allows you to access the power itself because the power is you, rather than having to wait for entreat or dance for the power in order to get it to hear you, because that's how we got into trouble in the first place. People don't remember the whole advent of religion itself came from simple things like if the grass was growing, the wheat was growing one year, everyone was happy. But if next year the wheat got eaten, then everyone would think, if it was eaten by grasshoppers, that the grasshopper god was upset. So they would erect a grasshopper god and then give it the first of the wheat, and they would just lay it there in front of the grasshopper god statue. And then the next year there probably would be no grasshoppers, so everyone would think it would work. And then the next year if there were grasshoppers again, they would feel like the grasshopper god was not appeased, and they need to give it more than just the first of the wheat. And so this led eventually to giving the firstborn of the children. So we can see that the world has been in this preliminary phase of childhood of how it approaches these energies, especially externally, because they exist within us. When we understand completely that our goal is to become beings that don't consume physical. And that's the next, some people started introducing the breatharian. But when I say that is the goal, that is actually the stage that is after death. There's no longer any physical consumption. And so we can begin to work on lightening ourselves, quickening ourselves with the things that have already been made available on earth to give us the bridge to that. And that's why I was saying still that earth becomes important, because it still does contain the necessary things within it to get us next level, and that's already been discovered. It's not only been discovered by myself, it's been discovered by Louise, and thousands of more people have found things here on earth that have propelled them so that when they do leave this body, that they will be going into an experience conscious. And because this is also the thing, if people really calculate how when death occurs, is generally very fast. The percentage of death, 80%, it occurs very fast. So in that case, why worry about something that would happen so fast? The reality is that there's one deeper secret about death, which is lucid sleep, and it's also sleep itself and dreaming itself. That every night you die. And you are to see it no different as if when you finally die from this planet, you're going to go into a dream, for better lack of words. But will you be lucid in that dream? This is the key point. And even practicing lucidity now, meaning practicing the ability to be controlling your dream, prepares you for the next stage and allows you to be more in control of your next incarnation. I think they've given this term now professional reincarnators. But this is something that is accessible for us just until we gain more ability to understand and comprehend what the universe has to offer. So I got about 9 more minutes left in the call. I'm going to let Wes and Krista come and chime in and see what they have to say about the whole thing, and see if the lines are clear back up, and give them the opportunity to speak on something. Wes, did you get a chance to get the lines fixed over there? Okay, it's possible that those lines did not get fixed, so we're going to go ahead and take probably our final caller. We got about 9 more minutes on the line. Caller from area code 404. You're on the 2012 show.
Peace, brother. This is Miller Angel calling from Florida.
Great. How you doing, brother? It's good to hear you.
Doing good. Won't complain. I just had a simple question dealing with timeline, the way we view time. A lot of times, scientists, scholars, religious leaders search for the beginning of something, beginning of mankind, beginning of Earth. And I just have a possible theory. What's to say that these things weren't just always here and won't always be here? Just kind of wants your opinion on that viewpoint of the matter.
Well, I think that when we're searching for the beginning in something that, that's what we talked about before in regards to where our limitation in thought is. Our limitation in thought is that there is a beginning to everything. That eventually, if you trace it all the way back, you'll get to the first one. But our very existence tells us that that's not exactly true, because how we arrived is kind of from nowhere. And we have to realize, how is that possible? Like, how does something really kind of come into existence from nothing? And so I think that what you're asking is that when they're always trying to find like an origin or a beginning point to something that has a circle to it, it's going to be very difficult. Like, our Earth is really circular. Our timeline is really circular, what's just called non-linear. Linear is the straight line where there's a beginning and there's an end. This information more explodes into existence. It's not so much as a straight line. And this is the much I can really give on that particular topic. But whether they're trying to find the beginning of something, I think it's really more of a waste of time, in the sense that what would that solve if we found out what the beginning of things were? And from their standpoint, you see, because then when they're always trying to measure and find something, they're always trying to look for timelines. They're trying to look for elements. They're trying to look for deposits. They're trying to carbon date things. And then they come to this number and they say, 47 billion years ago, then that began life in this universe. And if they exactly pinpoint that, it's like, okay, now what are we going to go and figure out? There never has become like fruit behind what it is that they're spending so much time trying to figure out. Because it starts to become of no importance. Like, a person doesn't want to figure out where they begin when they already know they don't have an end. Whereas when you're acknowledging that you don't have an end, it means you also just acknowledge that you don't have a beginning. But because we step now into another level of knowledge, a knowledge that is much more higher than what is really passed to earth, it still confuses us. Because, like I said, for us, everything comes from somewhere. But our existence shows us that, hey, this thing just implodes and then explodes into your reality, almost like if it's teleported. And so I believe that that's something that we have yet to see. I think that that's something that we don't need to be trying to get the answer to right now from our limited state of thought. It's something I believe that is far more grander, has to begin to explain how that works. But like we always see, we see women do it, we see the bringing in of life, and we see that it starts on such a minuscule level, like such a small level, life begins to form. We haven't even gotten the opportunity to look or have devices that look on that level, but only people who really delve into themselves from the inside find out the answers to that. And they generally can't explain it. It's like you go to the High Lama, whatever, who's been through all the portals, et cetera, and you ask them to explain how life came into existence, he's just going to look at you. Because he's going to basically come to the massive conclusion that such things cannot even be translated through verbal communication. Such things, to truly explain them, would create them within themselves. And that's why you see that there's words of power. There's vibrations that even the child speaks. Before the child learns languages, there's certain vibrations that it emits to express something. And so the first we can pretty much go back is the sound. And the sound generally comes from the desire itself, or the want to produce it. Very little can be produced when you don't want it to happen. And this is also why humanity can stop acting like it's like the aborted child or something that was never wanted. You can't bring something as beautiful as the universe and the people that are within it from an idea that you don't want it to come into life. That's not how it works. This is like you always thinking you're always thinking, I'm not going to win. I'm not a winner. I'm a loser. Like, how could you ever win in that state of mind? So it also puts us in another position why we have these group of people, the same ones introducing all the horror films, that are trying to explain to us that the universe really wants to eat us and kill us, and there's all these different things that want to destroy us. There's an entirely different story that we have to learn to accept, because that story becomes about you. And that's why they said in 2012, what the projection is going to be about is about what you project. That's going to be the difference. Now, if you allow individuals to convince you of what you should project, it's going to be no different than it was before, because that's always what they're doing, meaning that the reality is always putting us in a position to where it's giving us information and telling us what to do. Now we have enough of the knowledge, enough of the information, enough of the frequency, the vibration, and even each other to start to create things that we know will benefit us, because we're not just blindly following it, but we actually know the inner workings of it. And I guess that'll bring me to like my last statement here. I thought of what is the difference between when you don't really know about something but you believe in it versus you really know about it. And I think this is also, and there's one I find that is far more superior than the other. And so this is also the answer that many people are looking for in regards to their spiritual relationships with different entities that they can't divine who they really are, or religious factions, etc., is that to blindly believe in something only leaves you blind to their true state. So that allows you never to even access that state, if that's something that you want to do. To know everything about it is what is going to give you the abilities of whatever it is that you're studying, whatever it is that you're following. And so that's also what we seek to do more, is let everyone know more about us, let everyone know more about also the knowledge and information that's passing through. And then I think within each other, we're going to find out more about the universe. So it's more like just two different things. Like I can talk to you and get a better understanding about where we all came from than I could trying to carbon date some piece of stone with that may have been bored from 2,000 miles deep into the earth. You see what I mean? Because I can talk to you, but that stone I have a little bit of time communicating with unless I have those kind of faculties open. And this is another thing. The individuals that are approaching trying to find the answers to certain things don't have the instrument. And like I said, the body is the ultimate instrument. So they don't have an instrument to tell them how long particular thing has been in existence, because if they did, they can pull something right out of the ground right now and tell from that how long everything has been in existence, because as they talk about in the reality, there's basically a diagram to the entire universe, even within a speck of dust. What we're at now is we are now in the beginning of starting to develop this kind of information and then giving it to anyone in any kind of format. If we go and look for it, we may find it not to be there because we're supposed to put it there. And this saves a lot of time for especially future generations from continuously also trying to find it through all the works that we're looking at right now, the qualyistic works and the different works on the occult, the different dictionaries and encyclopedias about knowledge. Hopefully that got a little bit of the question answered for you. And we got about 60 more seconds left in the call. I did definitely want to say thank you to all my guests. And like I said, I have Luis in the studio, I have Western Crystal. We had a little bit of line trouble, but I'm glad we got a chance to hear from them in the beginning. And then, of course, we'll be, like I said, the show will be bi-monthly, so don't look for us next week, but look for us the week after. And, of course, there's going to be a lot of major developments on the website, so I ask people to check in and to check out things that are going on there. I'm going to go ahead and let Luis say wholeness and balance vibration to everyone since he's in the studio. And, of course, I wanted to extend my thanks and, of course, my welcome to all new members.
I want to thank all the callers and everyone here for giving me a chance to express myself, and Sevan, just it's been a blessing. It's been awesome with you guys, and wholeness, balance, vibration. Have a good day.